Hi, I'm Michael Ordonia of the Los Angeles Times. I'm here at our photo and video studio at San Diego Comic-Con 2019. Today we have as our guests fairly successful screenwriters for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You might know their work in Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, Captain America Civil War, Captain America Winter Soldier, and Thor the Dark World, among others. Christopher Markus and Stephen McFeely.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Michael.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. It's lovely here.
Now, I have to kind of feed the beast first and mention that Endgame is coming out on home video.
Yes.
I'm told people still have home video.
Yes, yes. Instead of just beaming things directly into their brains, which I'm sure Tony Stark would have invented.
That's right.
Oh, he did.
He did.
So
But
it's
he,
in the files.
he just didn't share it with us.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask about the home video release. In your opinion, what are the best special features about it? What are some maybe deleted scenes or things that you like?
Well, I mean, I'm partial. I like commentaries, and Chris and I and Joe and Anthony Russo spent a lot of time sort of just mixing it up. We've done it for all of the 4 films. So if you're particularly invested in the MCU and in storytelling, they're not commentaries where you say, "Oh, I remember that day; it was hot." It's more like we made these story choices and these character choices because of X, Y, and Z. And
That said, it was hot then.
it's usually hot.
Very hot then.
For pathetic nerds like me, that's a big deal.
Okay.
There's also, I mean, I've lost track which deleted scenes are on there. There were some things that really hurt to cut.
Oh yeah.
And but they weren't. In the end, this movie is so stuffed that everything has to be 100% on plot. Anything that seems like a little diversion will get chopped off. So there's some really pleasing diversions in there. And I think there's something very nice about Stan Lee in it, if I'm not mistaken. And
Right.
there's nothing but nice things to say about Stan Lee. So, and he's adorable. So watch the video.
I'm very sad to say I never got to meet the man.
We met him briefly.
A couple times, yeah, a couple times.
Only a couple times?
Yeah,
Well,
no, he was sort of a chairman emeritus, right? So he would come in.
An amazingly busy man for a man of his age. Also, was like Stan was here, but now Stan is gone.
Very true. So can you name any of the particular scene that was especially painful to cut?
Well, I'm trying to think.
I also don't know everything that's on it.
Yes.
'cause-
Well, let's put it this way. Something that you know didn't make the final cut of Endgame.
Sure.
Yeah.
And directorial considerations aside, length aside, a scene that you just loved and wished had
Well,
been.
I may be alone here. There was a scene between Natasha and Clint Barton en route to Vormir. So they leave Morag, and then they basically just have sort of a long conversation while the Quinjet is on autopilot. And we needed it because it was going to remind you that they shared a relationship. And that they meaning that they loved each other, which is of course a prerequisite for what's going to happen on Vormir. Like you needed to have that relationship in order for the Soul Stone to be gotten. It turns out you do not need that because you've watched all the movies and you know they love each other, right? And they're great actors, so it takes 2 lines and not an entire scene.
Again, I'm not sure. It feels silly to say things, and it might not be on the DVD, but there was more footage. Literally, you've missed no dialogue, but there was more footage of Natasha living alone, very much like a hermit in Avengers Compound before Scott Lang showed up. That I found very interesting because she was training, sort of purposelessly training. She was going to stay a hero no matter what, and it's admirable, but it's also a little bit sad because the fight's over, and in the end, there was nothing it was getting across that we didn't get from that scene where she's talking to the holograms and then she cries. And but I liked the sort of the time it took with her.
I definitely know what you're saying about those things being conveyed otherwise. I mean, we know that they love each other. And yes, that's conveyed, but in a novel, we'd get those.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, we wrote many
in a
novels
TV
worth of
show,
stuff.
you get those things.
But
But
that's right. That's right.
That's right.
But at 3 hours,
Yeah.
you're already asking a lot.
It's a lean 3 hours
no,
anyway.
it does
like,
not
I defy
feel
you to look
long.
at the scenes and go, well, what are you going to throw out?
Oh, it doesn't feel like they
when where are you going to go to the bathroom? It's a tough call.
Generally,
right?
the bathroom.
Excellent point. Excellent point. I stand corrected again.
But yeah, especially the thing you were talking about her training for no apparent reason. I think that's really telling about her character.
Yeah.
She is determined to not return to what she was. She's
Right.
determined to stay on this.
She's determined,
positive
and
road.
she's also, in a way, keeping grief at bay.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And that informs her choice at the end, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean, that's so.
But she's sublimating her grief into action.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hopefully that's on the home video release, we should say.
Yes.
The Tony Stark beam. Okay, now, I asked this question knowing that Kevin Feige has snipers targeting you right now.
Yes, he does.
But I really desperately need to know what you can tell me about Phase 4. I need to know.
Oh my God, I know nothing. I literally know nothing. I read things in Los Angeles Times and all these other sites, and I go, well, I don't think Marvel announced that.
What?
But what are you talking about? There's all these little rumory things, but I don't know them.
All I
nothing
know
for sure.
is Phase 4 can go in a lot more directions than any of the preceding 3 phases because of just the doors that 3 successful phases have opened. It now, they have Cosmic Marvel available. They have Doctor Strange Cosmic Marvel available. They have, there are so many directions you can go in now. Plus, if you throw in the Disney streaming thing, now,
Yeah.
I think it will be a phase that is shaped differently than the preceding ones.
Probably true.
Something that can spread out in more directions at once.
Yeah, well, then it would sort of take more of the shape of Marvel Comics themselves, which are already.
It's almost inevitable when you keep making these things and they're all connected that it cannot be on one straight line or you're going to get incredibly repetitive after a while. So it has to spread.
But the way you're answering this, or not answering it, is it's bothering me because it doesn't. Aren't you guys making another one yourselves? No.
We're gone. No, we are not working for Marvel at the moment. Yeah. What do you mean?
For one thing,
I know. Thank you. That's very nice.
You
That's very
can't
nice.
raise the stakes.
Yes, we're gonna make a bigger movie.
You can't.
You raise the stakes in a personal way.
We've written for every character they have. It's incumbent upon us, one, to let other people play with the toys.
Okay.
But also for us to go recharge our batteries,
Play with our own toys.
develop other skills, and then come back should the opportunity arise. We love them. Hopefully they like us. We would gladly go back when the need arises. But at the moment, we're not there. We were on, literally, continuously, from Cap 1 to the end of Endgame.
Right.
It's a long run.
That's a long, and you've got other stories you want to tell. I know. I'm going to ask about those.
You don't have to.
But I'm going to, no, I actually do want to.
Huh?
But I want to force an idea into your brain so that you can't let it go.
Fine.
You don't have to get bigger.
Yeah.
Right.
Get more intimate and intense.
Yeah.
I have always wanted to see a Shang-Chi movie that would be no superpowers, just pure espionage, pure like human thing. And considering the many, many different genre that you have taken these movies through, I want you guys to write that movie.
Right.
Kevin Feige.
They seem to. Well, I mean, again, I don't know what's happening on Phase 4, but
something's happening tomorrow on stage. I don't know
tomorrow.
what it is.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
I think we are at that
hoping to
point,
get a
though.
ticket
I
in.
think Marvel is at that point where that you can go to what might not be a straight-up superhero property that is under the Marvel Comics banner.
Yeah.
And start working it in. I mean, they have Western comic books. They have Kung Fu comic books. They have
Night Nurse.
Yeah, they had Tarzan for a while. Like, I don't think you can do it again. I'm sure they don't have him now, but
Didn't Joe Kubert draw it?
yeah, like I think the goodwill is there now that
Oh,
it's
Guardians
really
showed that.
it is a remarkable opportunity to tell a vast array of stories.
Yes, they're definitely playing with the house's money. They can hire
sure.
weird directors and weird writers and take big swings. Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah.
They're in a place that no other filmmaking concern has ever been.
It's really, I hope that people understand what Kevin has done. You know, like I think perhaps when you live in the moment, you're, it's another comic book movie or whatever. But he's Irving Thalberg. Like he's really changing how Hollywood is working.
I don't think that's an exaggeration.
I really don't think it is.
What I like to tell people in my business is that the MCU has proven that blockbusters can be good.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
I think so. Yeah.
And that the public has an appetite for long-form narrative.
Yes.
Like people accuse, it's sequelitis and you're not telling a story. It's like, no, we're telling a very, very large, complicated story.
Right.
And people want that. They don't want to go to one little thing and have it end, and that's, the ongoing nature of it. Our brains are starving for long-form content.
Right.
I also think it's why, to take it to the other end of the media spectrum, is why podcasts are doing so well. It's just that people are going to talk about one thing for 45 minutes. Like 10 years ago, that was anathema to all media.
Right.
Now it is, this huge burgeoning subset of media, because it turns out people have the capacity to follow more than 30 seconds.
They want to
content.
invest.
Yeah.
Maybe MTV editing has run its course.
You never
Perhaps.
know.
Before I've got to ask some fan service questions, but before that, I do want to ask what you're doing now that's not MCU.
So we started a studio with Joe and Anthony Russo. So we are shepherding a bunch of projects for that studio. We made 4 movies last year. The thing we're writing at the moment is a thing called Electric State. I think I can tell the LA Times that we wrote a script about the Cambridge Analytica scandal, and we'll shoot that next year. So that's about all I'll say on that, but I like your reaction.
You can't say anything else?
I mean, as you might imagine, that's pretty sensitive.
We're very proud of it.
Yeah, and so that story broke a couple days ago. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it's going to start shooting next year. You can say that.
Our hope is that shoots next year.
Okay. And you can't talk about director possibly.
Oh, that's David Gordon Green is directing that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're intrigued.
Check the internet, Michael. It's all over the place.
By what might be about to happen.
Yeah, somebody in my job maybe should do that. All right, I got to ask just a little bit of fan service stuff, starting with my son Winston's question to you.
Hit it.
Now, I doubt you could have thought this far ahead, but I'm sure you've had the question from fans, was old Cap at Peggy's funeral in Civil War?
Well, Winston.
Huh?
Well,
I said,
yeah.
well, Winston. I would very much like that. There is no set explanation for Cap's time travel. I mean, we've had public disagreements with the Russos about what it necessarily means, but I love the idea of there being 2 Steve Rogers in the timeline.
Yeah.
One who lived a long life with Peggy and is in the background of that funeral scene, watching his young self carry his wife's coffin up. I mean, not just for the time travel mumbo jumbo of it, but for the just weird personal pain and satisfaction that would be happening between 2 Steve Rogers there. I kind of love it. But it does require,
Retconning?
Well, it depends on what kind of stories Marvel wants to tell going forward. And I don't know if they want to, but let's say they wanted to tell, do they want to tell stories with characters who are gone? Do they want to do prequels? And if they wanted to do, if
Black Widow.
Yeah, and is that is that just a straight prequel, or is that some sort of alternate timeline? Do they want to embrace the multiverse or not? And if they do, they tell one kind of story. And if they, Captain America could save Kennedy in a story, right? Is that a story you want to tell? I don't know, but I think they're going to leave them. They're retraining the audience. My grandmother might not be able to understand multiverse, but I think a lot of audience members might be down for it. So I don't know.
Don't run your grandma down.
She's actually just a fictional
Very
grandmother
bright
because they're all dead.
Doesn't mean she not in the multiverse.
Your grandmother's
my grandmother's alive somewhere.
The multiverse for me tends to lower stakes, but I love the idea of the what if show.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we were trying to do with the 5 years, is that it allows us to go to depressed Thor and family man Tony and Steve, who's giving up his faith. Like, that's what and Hulk being the only superhero left.
Yeah.
That was the idea.
Just a personal thing, I really did love that moment with Cap and the support group.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's kind of a Will and Grace moment where you're mainstreaming something in the largest way possible that is, I think, is going to have an impact down the line.
Oh,
I
just the
hope
fact that someone's gay and we don't talk about it?
Well, that
or-
Captain America completely approves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says that's beautiful, and
Yeah.
I think that's actually significant.
I also think, considering the age we live in, just to see Captain America,
Right.
big mighty symbol of America, sitting there basically broken, nearly crying,
Yeah.
with other men, is, we need a lot more of that,
I agree.
And I'm very glad we got it out there. That this is what heroes do when they're sad.
Self-examination.
You wouldn't believe how many conversations I have to have with people to convince them that the Marvel movies actually take the characters seriously. Yeah.
I mean, there are people who, 15% of the reviews are written without watching the movie because they know what they think already.
That's right.
And you're never going to get them. But I like to think that these will be around for a while and they stand up.
I'm running out of time with you guys. One thing I wanted to say about that taking characters seriously is Civil War, I think, is a great example of taking characters' motivations seriously.
Yeah.
And it came out right around the time that another famous superhero movie came out that I don't think took motivations very seriously, that got two big superheroes to fight each other.
I don't know what you're talking about, but yes, go on.
I just made it up. So that kind of deep investment in the characters, I mean really serious investment in the characters, not just how can we conveniently get them to fight.
Right.
Is that a mandate? Is that something you guys discuss with the Russos and Feige? And
It's the only reason we make the movies.
Yeah.
Chris and I have often said, like, if you were to look at one of our scripts, I don't think it says Captain America anywhere. It doesn't say Iron Man anywhere. The slug lines are for Tony, and they're for Steve, and they're for Natasha.
Oh.
We just write for people. They have a day job, and the day job looks like that, and it's pretty cinematic. But all we're trying to do is get the guy who lost everything in the 40s and woke up in 2011 and is trying to negotiate this new world he did not have a hand in building. We're just trying to get him through the day.
Yeah.
It's
And-
not,
And now that we're out of it for the moment, there are people who go like, well, it must be a huge relief. You can write about people again. And I have never felt held back or put in a box while working at Marvel. Like, those are very character-heavy movies. They're all character. There are reams of people who will handle the other stuff and handle it very well. But their stuff has no meaning if our stuff doesn't hold up. And so we sit in a conference room for months on end talking about character and only character. And that's why I think those movies are, they're more substantial.
Right.
Just two other things for you. I talked before about the different genre you guys have been able to explore within superheroes. Because the first Cap movie feels like the kind of bright and shiny 40s propaganda movie.
40s war movie. Yeah.
And then Winter Soldier feels like a 70s paranoia movie to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how I describe Civil War, but is that also part of the design that you guys actually discuss this with the Russos and Feige? You say
For
this-
sure.
a different type of movie?
Yeah, yes, they're comic book movies. They're superhero movies. Okay, fine. That's the, is that the genus? And then there's the species or something?
There's a phylum in there.
There's but that's the idea, is that we're going to tell all sorts of type of stories if they lend themselves to that. That's how Winter Soldier became a conspiracy thriller, not because we just said, oh, that would be cool, let's figure it out. It's based on the character. He wakes up and doesn't know who he can trust because everything is lost to him. And that's a way to explore the man out of time without him going, oh, phones are strange, right? You want to go, oh, you did Vietnam and Watergate? What was that about? And now there's a police state. Like, there's those questions got us to conspiracy thriller, not the other way around.
It also keeps when you're able to switch up genres or switch up models for each movie, it keeps the thing fresh. It keeps the franchise from feeling like here's another iteration of the thing. You know, that's why
It's
they're
the
not
same, but
it's not
10%
called
different.
Captain America 2.
Yeah.
You know, so that you are putting the characters through different paces each time.
And growing them. The collective character work is really important. You know, older franchises didn't want to change the character that much because the people came to that one and they want the same guy the next time out. But that's not the case. Like the universe took Tony Stark from selfish to selfless, and it took Steve Rogers from selfless to self-interested, get a life, put the shield down, you know, come home from war. Those take that's a lot of work in a bunch of movies. Yeah.
Well, it was also Haley Atwell. I think most guys would probably go back
for Haley Atwell.
Okay, last thing. How many Comic-Cons have you guys been to?
I think this is the fourth or fifth.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
So what is the most bizarre, crazy, amazing thing you've seen?
Well, this year I've basically seen him. I haven't
done much.
Haven't been on the floor yet.
It's nice. Sometimes people will shake our hands, and that's nice. You know, like 2011, nobody knew who we were, so that's kind of nice.
I'm still happy when I see people dressed as Peggy Carter because
that's really
you know
great.
when you look at it, she has not had a ton of screen time.
Well, I'll say, given her show, she's spoken more words in the MCU than Steve Rogers has.
But again, name me people dressed up down there for a show that was canceled 3 years ago that had 2 seasons that had okay ratings. There's something about that character that really seized people, particularly women.
Yeah, for sure.
And it makes me really happy that it's still resonating. It's still inspiring. And
no one got to the end of
makes me want to call Haley and go, come on, what are you doing?
Nobody got to the end of Endgame and didn't know who she was, you know, and didn't go, oh, that's exactly right. I hope they thought that. Yeah.
Good point. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your
Thanks,
time. I
Michael.
really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Although
You want a little more spoilers?
I want to know more about.
Well, let me
Phase 4.
get my phone. I'll text Kevin.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks.